Welcome, everybody, to the Grizzly True Sports Network NFL show. I am your host, Mike Goodpaster. Along with me, of course, always, my other co-host, Sam Teets. How you doing, Sam? You there, Sam?
Yeah, I'm here. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I've been waiting on you. I want to remind everybody that our host, our presenting sponsor, is Replenishing Care and Technologies. You can check them out at rcandt.com. Sam, we're only a couple days away from the NFL season kicking off.
Yeah, we're almost there. I'm excited. I'm ready to have some football for once. It feels like we haven't had football in a while now.
It's because we haven't had football in a while, Sam. It was last season. But
yeah, I know. It just feels longer than normal.
All right, we're to our last two divisions on predicting and previewing each division. Today, we're going to look at the NFC North. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, we'll look at the AFC North. Now, last year, the NFC North looked like it may be the class of the NFL. All it needed was for Bears quarterback Mitch Trubisky to break out, Aaron Rodgers to be rejuvenated under his new coach in Green Bay, the Vikings to continue dominating on defense, and Coach Matt Patricia to successfully implement the Patriot Way in Detroit. 1 year later, Sam, it's a different story. And any of the four teams could win it. But does the North have a single team that belongs in the Super Bowl conversation?
The only team I could see getting in that conversation would be Green Bay, mostly because of Aaron Rodgers and what they did last year. They did go 13-3. It was kind of a sneaky 13-3, though. They made the NFC Championship game, but it really didn't feel like they belonged in the same class as San Francisco or New Orleans. And this year, I don't think I would put them in the same class as Tampa Bay. So I would say, no, I really don't think there's a Super Bowl contender here in the NFC North.
So we'll start off with the Packers, since that's who you brought up. They're experiencing a kind of chaos you rarely see with a team coming off a 13-3 season and a conference title game appearance. After trading up in the first round to take quarterback Jordan Love rather than finding more help for Rodgers, there have to be question marks on this offense, Sam.
Yeah, it's not just the Jordan Love pick. They went and got A.J. Dillon as well, and he was like top 3 pick for them. Well, I have Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams who are both in contract here. So basically, you got a replacement quarterback who won't play for another 3 or 4 years. And you got a replacement running back who could take over the guys' jobs next season. You didn't really get better at all. I think they were neutral this offseason. And I am questioning their offense at this point because they only have two really good weapons in Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams. They haven't helped Aaron Rodgers nearly enough.
Yeah, the A.J. Dillon pick, really a 250-pound hammer, got some open field speed, kind of reminiscent of the Titans' Derrick Henry. It almost looks as if head coach Matt LaFleur is aiming to make the Pack more like his former team in Tennessee, built around wide zone runs and play-action passes.
Yeah, and if they do go that direction, it's going to probably mean the end of Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams in Green Bay. They'll probably let those guys walk in free agency next offseason. And doing that, I mean, that's got to create some level of uncertainty in the locker room because now you have not tried to get better to win now. You're preparing to win in 2 or 3 years. And if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I would be pissed.
Yeah, and I think the Packers defense looked better last year, but in the playoffs, not so much. And I would really be concerned with the Packers defense even.
Yeah, because they got destroyed by the San Francisco 49ers, especially in the running game. They got torched. And they had players on this defense. It's not like they don't have anyone. They got Darius Smith and Preston Smith, which is one of the best pass rush duos in the league, actually. Kenny Clark in the middle, who they just extended. That's a very good nose tackle or interior lineman. And they're between Adrian Amos at safety, Darnell Savage, Jair Alexander. It's not a bad defense, but they just haven't stepped up. There are a lot of these guys who are good players who need to be great players this year if Green Bay's going to have a chance to make the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions with Green Bay, but there's a lot of questions with all these teams. And next we'll go to Minnesota. There's no question who the starting quarterback is after Kirk Cousins signed an extension that locks him in for at least 2 more seasons. But this team was kind of built around its defense. And that unit underwent more turnover than perhaps any in football this offseason. Goner Pro Bowl lineman Everson Griffin, Linville Joseph as well, and 3 of the team's top 4 cornerbacks, including mainstays Xavier Rhodes, Trey Waynes. This is a team that's lost a lot on defense. And Zimmer, historically, whether it was in Dallas, Cincinnati, now Minnesota, is loath to kind of rely on rookies in the secondary. But they're going to have to with first-rounder Jeff Gladney and Cameron Dantzler.
Yeah, they're going to have to throw those guys in there. And the other player who needs to step up is Mike Hughes. They took him in the first round a couple years ago, I think, at this point. And he has not done anything at the NFL level. He's been a complete bust. at this point in his career. He was a 30th overall pick in 2018. And like I said, he's not proven himself whatsoever. There was a reason why he was the 4th or 5th cornerback in their depth chart last year. And now suddenly he's going to be a starter. So I don't think the cornerback group is really – it's just bad in Minnesota. I think Jeff Gladney could be a good player. I just think the rest of everything around them is just bad at the cornerback spot.
And they've still got several stars. You got linebackers Eric Kendricks, Anthony Barr, edge rusher Danielle Hunter, safety Harrison Smith, Anthony Harris are good, but I think this defense only remains solid if the new pieces like Gladney fit together early in the secondary, and that's going to be hard to do.
Yeah, they also traded Yannick Ngakoue, so they have pieces here. I don't think they're completely out of it, because they do have, like I said, Ngakoue and Danielle Hunter up front, Harrison Smith and Anthony Harrison at safety. The issue is everything in between those two right now. It's the cornerbacks, to some extent, the third linebacker position. I'm not really trusting what they have there. I think they're going to be a good defense, but they're not going to be nearly as good as they were 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, and I think the massive turnover in personnel, I mean, this could prove too much to handle in a shortened offseason, and I think we could see the defense regress. And if they do, you look at the offensive side of the ball, Dalvin Cooks, one of the better running backs in the NFL, but he has injury concerns, and he was great the first 5 or 6 games of the season last year and kind of dropped off. And if they have that kind of loss again and you take away Stephon Diggs, I think there's a lot of questions in Minnesota also.
Yeah, the offense itself, there's going to be issues there. I think the offensive line has always been questionable since Kirk Cousins got there. It's certainly still that right now. They haven't fixed it entirely. Dalvin Cook, like you brought up, the injury concerns. He's never played a full 16-game season. And he's only played one season where he actually started more than 10 games. So he's a very good running back when healthy, but he hasn't proven to me he's capable of staying healthy for a 2 or 3 year run. Adam Thielen's come back from injury. I want to see how healthy he is at the start of the year. I think Justin Jefferson will be huge for them. I just don't – it's hard for rookies this year. Hard to predict how rookies are going to perform, and the Vikings are going to be relying on a lot of rookies.
Yeah, we moved to Chicago Bears, who were a surprise playoff team 2 years ago behind quarterback Mitch Trubisky. They have a few questions on defense, especially with the free agent acquisition, Robert Quinn providing a pass rush bookend for Khalil Mack. But they have many issues on offense, starting with the aforementioned Trubisky. After a shaky 2018 was masked by the team's defense and the turnovers in the shortened field, the Bears couldn't overcome Trubisky's regression in 2019. It impelled them to bring in Nick Foles, a high-priced free agent bust in Jacksonville. Now, Foles does have a Super Bowl pedigree and knows Matt Nagy's system from their time in Kansas City, but both quarterbacks lack the support they need. Chicago has very little in offensive weapons outside of Allen Robinson.
They have nothing in offensive weapons outside of Allen Robinson. Maybe Cole Kmet at tight end if it works out, but like I said, it's going to be a tough offseason for rookies. You're looking at your second best receivers, either Ted Ginn Jr. or Cordero Patterson, and those guys are honestly probably better returned than their receivers at this point in their careers. The offensive line, outside Cody Whitehair, it's not really that good. You signed Jermaine Ifedi, who was notorious for his issues in Seattle. You brought him in. Now he's a starter there for you. And even the running back, David Montgomery, Tariq Cohen, these guys are unproven running backs who really haven't been successful the last couple of years. So I think it doesn't matter if it's Mitchell Trubisky or Nick Foles. The quarterback in Chicago is set up to fail.
Yeah, I think the only hope here is that either Trubisky or Foles are serviceable at best at quarterback. Montgomery and Cohen make the offense go a little bit. And you've got Khalil Mack and Quinn become football's best pass rushing duo, and the defense piles up 30-plus takeaways again, bringing back that 2018 dominance. But even at that, I have a hard time seeing this team even getting 7 or 8 wins.
Well, let me put it this way. Pittsburgh, the Steelers went 8-8 last year with their defense. I think the high watermark for Chicago this year would be 8-8, realistically. Because even if they had the best defense in the NFL, I still think it'd be an 8-8, 9 or 17. Because this offense is horrendous. Like I said, I don't think David Montgomery is going to be a long-term star. He's not like Jordan Howard. He won't be a guy who sticks there long-term at running back. And Mitchell Trubisky, there's a reason he's going to be a backup in the NFL or out of the league in a couple of years. And even Nick Foles. Nick Foles is very streaky. I haven't seen Nick Foles play a full 16-game season and perform well in more than half a decade.
And remember this, in Philadelphia, when he was successful, he had guys around him.
Yeah, he had offensive support, and the offensive line in Philadelphia was very good. Chicago is just not the same.
Yeah, and this may sound crazy, but in a division this open with this many questions, I think Detroit could make a run this season. And before his season-ending back injury midway through last year, Matt Stafford was playing at an MVP level. No one noticed because the defense was flailing and they kind of lost a few close games. I think Matt Patricia's got to be on the hot seat, especially with his defense, to deliver this year. And last year, the pass rush was completely toothless. That placed an unreasonable burden on the secondary. They've got new quarters in Jeff Okudah, the number 3 overall pick, and former Falcon star Desmond Trufant, plus a young rotation of safeties that will have their work cut out for them. But just having Matt Stafford here, kind of like in Green Bay, just having Aaron Rodgers makes it possible for them to have a shot to win this division.
Well, they had 4 or 5 games that they lost by 1 score or less last year. So if the defense can improve, maybe hold teams down a little bit, and you get Matt Stafford back, he plays the full season, they could win 8 or 9 games. It's realistic to have that happen because of how well Stafford's been playing. In the first half of last year, he was pacing 4,998 yards and 36 touchdowns, or actually 38 touchdowns, and then he got hurt. So if he had stayed healthy, I mean, it would have been the best year of his career. It would have been an MVP caliber season for him. It's just unfortunate he didn't get healthy. And like you said, for the head coaches, for Matt Patricia, if your defense does not perform this season, you have to be gone because you're a defensive coordinator in New England. This is what you're supposed to be good at. If it's your 3rd year and your defense isn't working, I think you have to be done.
Yeah, and my biggest concern with Detroit, and the only reason I give him a chance is Matt Stafford, but I think the worst-case scenario is the pass rush will struggle again, which I think would be fair to predict, and the revamped interior offensive line just doesn't mesh right away. So just like the rest of these teams, there's a ton of questions here.
Yeah, you mentioned the revamped offensive line. They got Logan Sternberg in the draft. You got Joan Jackson. You got those guys brought in who will probably be starting here either in week 1 or will work their way into the rotation eventually. Like you said, if it doesn't work out, I mean, Matt Stafford's been hit his entire career. If you continue to get him flat, and he's had these little nicks and bruises before, if he keeps getting hammered, eventually it's going to pile up here. And it's going to be very difficult for him to stay in Detroit and continue playing at a high level.
All right, so what do you think the order of finish is in the NFC North this season?
No, I'm still going to give Green Bay the top spot. I still think Aaron Rodgers is going to come out. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be ticked off at Green Bay as the general manager. I think he's got something to prove at this point. And when you give Aaron Rodgers that motivation, I think he actually does improve his game. So I think the Green Bay is going to come out 1. I'll still give Minnesota 2 because I think Mike Zimmer's a really good head coach. Maybe not a terrific one, but he's still a good head coach. I think maybe the best head coach in this division at this point. So I'd say Vikings come in at number 2 with maybe 9 wins, maybe 10. And then I'll give Detroit the 3 spot, and I'll give Chicago the final one.
All right, I think I pretty much agree with you. I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers to win the division, not because I think they're a great team, but I do believe that he is a great quarterback. And when I look at this, I'm going to go with I really want to pick Detroit second, and they make the playoffs just so our buddy Sam McGinnis freaks out. But I think I'm going to go with Minnesota second, Detroit third, Chicago fourth. I think we'll see new head coaches in this division in at least 2 of the 4 spots, maybe 3 of the 4 spots when the season's over.
What should the third one be? So I understand Matt Nagy leaving. Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are both gone after this year if Trubisky doesn't play well. I think they'll have a new coach in Minnesota. I mean, in Detroit. But where's the third one, you think?
Minnesota. I think this. I mean, at some point, you've got to get over the top, right? And they've made the playoffs the last few years. They've been bounced out. You had the Minneapolis Miracle where they get her done there and then fall on their face after that. So I think that there comes a point where with the talent that they've had in Minnesota, don't you think Mike Zimmer's point is to be able to pull this out and win something? Or at least make a serious run?
I see what you're saying. He's been there since 2014. I really felt in 2017, like around that range, even in 2018, I thought they had a really good chance to make a deep run. I picked Minnesota actually to get to the NFC Championship game in the past. They haven't gotten that far. So I think at this point, I see what you're saying. My one question would be who you're going to get, who you're going to hire that's going to be better than Mike Zimmer.
Nobody. But what I'm saying, I'm not saying he should be fired. What I'm saying is the way the NFL works, people have short memories. People want to win Super Bowls right away. People want to go to championship games. And I just think he's going to be there. Now, we do have an elephant to address in the room, and that's Sam Teets' 2020 quarterback power rankings entering week 1. On what world or what planet is Dak Prescott ahead of Matt Stafford?
I was not prepared for discussion today, but you know what? We'll have it anyways. So I have Dak ahead of Stafford personally because I think the Cowboys have so many better weapons offensively than Detroit. I think Stafford, you still have Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones who are good. But I think in a sense, Stafford's set up to have a much more difficult situation in Detroit.
Well, wait a second.
Dak's got three really good receivers.
Shouldn't your power rankings for your quarterback just be on who the best quarterback is?
Well, you could do that, but I think it'll look like Dak's a better quarterback. I think it'll look that way, which is why I had him a little bit higher. But no, I didn't do it just purely based on skill.
So if you had to pick between Dak Prescott and Matthew Stafford to be your quarterback, who would you take?
I'd still take Dak. I would still take Dak.
Why?
Because Stafford this is 1 year, 1 or 2 years in Stafford's 10-year career where he's had a really good season like this.
But you just said yourself that he never has anything. I mean, last year he was on pace to throw for almost 5,000 yards and 38 touchdowns, and that was not with a ton of weapons in Detroit. Dak's got weapons. Dak's got Amari Cooper. Dak's got Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, it's a lot harder. So what you said there, when you said you're going to rank him higher because he's got a better cast of characters around him, basically tells me that Matt Stafford's better. I mean, what would Matt Stafford's career be like if he'd have been a Dallas Cowboy the last 3 or 4 years?
Well, he would have gone 8-8 every year. Who got Jason Garrett fired, and they probably would have been given a multi-billion-dollar deal by Jerry Jones.
So you think the year that Dak's rookie season would have had the best offensive line in football, that Matt Stafford would have went 8-8 behind that?
No, he would have done better probably. I think Stafford. Yeah, I see what you're saying here. I think I'm torn. I am torn because Dak has the mobility aspect to it that Stafford really doesn't. I think Stafford's at the high end, as peak, Stafford's probably a little bit better than Dak, but at the same point, Stafford lacks the consistency I've seen at points from Dak in the past.
All right, my next question. Joe Burrow at number 14. How is he not number 1? I'm just kidding. But how do you put Joe Burrow at number 14 and you have Ryan Tannehill who took his team to the AFC Championship game at 16? You've got Derek Carr, who's established as a good quarterback in the NFC at 17, or in the AFC at 17. Jimmy Garoppolo, who took his team to the Super Bowl, you have at 18. Jared Goff, who was at the Super Bowl 2 years ago, you got at 19. And you've got
you know why Jared Goff Goff's at 19.
Yeah,
Jared Goff did not play well. Yeah. He didn't play well last year, but no, I believe Joe Burrow. I'm buying all the Joe Burrow stock I can at this point. It is kind of crazy to have him that high up.
But my point is this: how can you put him in a power rankings before he ever plays a game ahead of over half the quarterbacks in the NFL? Now, I agree with you that I think he is better than over half the quarterbacks in the NFL, but we haven't seen that yet.
Sure, but Mike, you got to make some leap and bounds here to have some fun. I'm trying to be a little bit ahead of the train here. I'm trying to get some projections out here. At the same point, I don't think it's a stretch. I really don't think it is. I understand what you're saying, that he's never played football before, but if I played it safe and put him at 22, that's not really saying anything. I think he's that good. I think he's
but you can always jack up to number 1 the next week after he throws for 6,000 yards against the Chargers.
Yeah, he's going to win you a Super Bowl week 1, right?
Yeah, my biggest question here is Sam Darnold at 22. You've got him lumped in with Daniel Jones.
Yeah, and this is my issue with that. I have trouble. Again, it comes a little bit to the supporting cast because Darnold, we talked about Darnold in the past. I think Darnold is going to be a top 15 quarterback in the NFL. I think he's got that kind of talent. I think he's that kind of player. I think
he's going to be a top 10 guy in the NFL at some point.
Yeah, he's a really good quarterback. So I understand that the 22 rankings, or what I think it had 22, 23. I understand that ranking is not entirely reflective of his skill. But I want to see how he comes out and looks in week 1. He's had a full offseason. He's actually healthy this year. I want to see where he is, and I'm planning on moving up. I'm expecting to have to move him up. But
he had mono last year, and he comes back the last 8 games and 6-2, 13 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, and you got him 8 spots behind a rookie who's never taken a touchdown football in the NFL.
Yeah, I do. I think, like I said, I'm believing in Joe Burrow, and for Darnold,
how can you have Cam Newton at 21 ahead of Sam Darnold? Because he's the one that's been hurt. He was the one on IR most of last season, or all of last season. And you've got him as being better than Sam Darnold.
I think he'll look better in New England than Sam Darnold will in New York.
There's a case to be made that Sam Darnold may have more around him in New York than Cam Newton does in New England.
Yeah,
but then again,
that's true. I think they're going to make
the playoffs. So
I did, but I was after a little bit of tempting from someone. But no, I'm going to stick with this for now. I'll say this: I think New England's in a better situation to succeed because they're going to keep him on a short leash in week 1. So they're not really going to make him air out. They're really not going to make him try any difficult throws or anything like that. So I think he'll look a little bit better week 1. I expect Darnold to move up. I think Darnold will be better this season than even Jimmy Garoppolo or Ryan Tannehill. But for now, I'm holding down a little bit.
Why is Tyrod Taylor below Mitch Trubisky and Gardner Minshew?
Because Tyrod Taylor, when was the last time I saw Tyrod Taylor play more than 5 games in this season?
Well, how about this? When's the last time I saw Joe Burrow play 1?
Hey, that's a good point. I'll give you that one. But, I'm saying this. Tyrod Taylor has not played or not started a game since 2018.
Anything. Yeah, 2018. And this is the thing. Tyrod Taylor has taken a team to the playoffs before. He was hurt, but he has taken a team to the playoffs, and it was the Buffalo Bills. And it had been 17 years since they'd been there. I mean, to me, if you gave me a choice of Gardner Minshew, Mitch Trubisky, and Tyrod Taylor, I'm starting Tyrod Taylor because he's average at least.
Yeah, and average is going to get him replaced.
I don't think the other 2 guys are average.
Yeah, but being average is going to get him replaced in week 4, week 5 by Justin Herbert. Then Justin Herbert will be at the bottom of the list.
If he's anything short of Dan Fouts in LA with the Chargers, he's being replaced by week 5 or 6 no matter what.
Yeah. Well, that's how it works, though, with rookie quarterbacks start taking in the top 10.
Yeah. And this is the thing. Gardner Minshew will be the quarterback until they pick their first-round pick next year. So Gardner Minshew is doing the same thing Tyrod Taylor's doing. He's just getting a whole year to hold on to the job until then.
Yeah. And, Gardner Minshew might actually put up enough film that he'll bounce around. He'll be like a Ryan Fitzpatrick potentially, where he's going to bounce around forever.
We'll see. I'm not a big Gardner Minshew fan either. He needs a haircut. All right, Sam. Anything else we want to discuss before we wrap it up?
I think we got most of the news. I'm just excited to actually have a football game to talk about coming up down here later in the week.
Yeah. Tomorrow we will discuss the AFC North, where the Bengals, of course, will go undefeated and win the Super Bowl. The Steelers will probably not win a game this year, but that's because Big Ben will stub his toe in the first quarter of the first game and be out for the season. We can only hope. All right. You can follow Sam Teets at SamTeets33. You can follow me on Twitter at Grueling Truth. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. Make sure you check out thegruelingtruth.com for all of our articles also. And you can see us every day live, Monday through Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern on Twitch, Periscope, YouTube Live, Facebook Live. So make sure you check us every day at 1 o'clock. Check out the Replenishing Care and Technologies, RCANDT.com, our presenting sponsor. So for now, for Sam Teets, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.